Well, follow me. Follow me. They're two words that have drastically changed people's lives forever, and then they've drastically changed the world forever. And today I just want to sit in terms of a few stories, one being Matthew, about when Jesus has asked the question or made the statement to follow me, how people have responded. And then it's the flip side of, in your case, when Jesus is saying, follow me, come follow me, what is your response? And over our Young Adults Weekend, Lauren Soper, she brought this picture along, the pool illustration. Some of the young adults, they're nodding their head. And she said, if Jesus was the pool, who do you identify with? And it was such a beautiful conversation as we all unpacked and said, we identified different people, some even identifying with the same person, but having different reasoning about why. And I think it's a powerful illustration, and we'll keep coming back to this pool illustration today. And I want you to keep considering, for you, where do you identify yourself right now? If Jesus is the pool, he's saying, come follow me, where are you? Who are you in this picture? And why? As we're going to look at three different stories. And the first, Simon, also known as Peter, The Chosen, again, I keep plugging this in my messages, but The Chosen, a fantastic series. And Peter here, he's a fisherman. He was one of the first disciples, a married man, he was a Jewish man, and it says this, Matthew 4:18-20. It says, Jesus calls his first disciples. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting their net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come, follow me, is what Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. And at once they left their nets and they followed him. And if we go back to that pool illustration, I wonder, and tell me what you think, where do you think Peter would have been before he met Jesus on this day? Who do you think? Where do you think Peter would have been in this picture? Who do you think he would have identified with and why? Need a bit of crowd interaction. Where do you think Peter would have been and why? Any thoughts? My son's giving us some answers over there. Any thoughts? Where would he be and why? Standing on the edge? Yep. And why do you think? Yep. Yeah. So maybe the guy on the diving board? Or just on the edge there, on the left, yeah. Standing on the edge, he probably knew about Jesus, hearing about the interaction. Yep, I love it. Any other thoughts? Yeah, typewriter? Working hard? Yeah, it's good. So typewriter, working hard, he's a fisherman, deep within his work, long nights, long days. Try and provide, but maybe missing the point. Yeah, it's good, Ash. Anyone else? Yeah, physically hard. So he's got the mop in his hand. He's looking up and seeing what's going on, but he's still working. Yeah, similar, Ash. It's good. And I think when you think of Peter, he was a man who was outspoken. He was a leader. He was strong. He's a fisherman, a husband. And I think he might have, and it's kind of similar to what Mary Ann was saying, I think he might have been in that diving board just ready to jump in. He had seen, he had heard, and he was ready to experience it, and finally he meets Jesus, and he's all in. But you could also say, maybe he's the guy with all the gear at the top. He's got his snorkel on, he's got his flippers on. He's a traditional Jew. So maybe he had all the information, and he's on his way, he has all the information, but he hasn't reached the point of meeting Jesus yet. Or maybe, like you, Ash, I had the same idea. He's sitting at the typewriter and he's just working, missing the point. But you see, when you look at Peter and his life, I was reading this devotional, and it says this. So two fishermen, they were quietly plying their trade, and then Jesus turns up and he says, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. And it says, well, when these 10 words came out of Jesus' mouth, he catapults these brothers' lives from the shores of Galilee, simple fishermen, to the ends of the earth. To the ends of the earth. From being anonymous people that no one really would have known about, to be unimaginably influencers of this world, and still today we are impacted by their lives. From the predictable and stable into lives of a pilgrim, lives of a disciple, and ones that just impacted the world. And I don't know about you, but like Mark said, these moments of a Sunday bring you so much joy and excitement as people take that next step of faith. Jess asked me the other day, what brings you the most joy of your job? And it's that, seeing somebody step into a next point of faith, whether that's choosing to jump into a life group, to do covenant classes, to do Alpha, whatever that may be, you are taking a step forward in your faith. And when you read this passage, there's excitement about it. It says, Jesus says, follow me, and they dropped everything and they went. There's this passion, and if you talk to the 4 girls about their faith at the moment, there is passion, desire, hunger. It's a great place to be. And so when you look back at this pool illustration, where did Peter end up? He was all in. He's doing laps. He's loving experiencing God's presence and being beside Jesus on this journey as a disciple. And then we get to Matthew. Here's the next story we're looking at. And you saw the clip there of Matthew and that point where Jesus says, come and follow me. And it's from Matthew 9:9. And it says, the calling of Matthew. And it says this. As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. Follow me, he told him. And Matthew got up and he followed him. So if we go back to the pool illustration, where do you think Matthew was before he met Jesus? Who do you think he identified with? Any thoughts? The man on the chair at the bottom left? Yep. Yep. Yeah, so sitting on the chair, he had the knowledge, but he's just waiting for that invitation. It's good. And he was in the books, tax collector, loved his numbers. Anyone else? Where would have Matthew been before he met Jesus? The guy in the mirror? Yeah, why do you think, Hannah? Yeah, so guy, top left in the mirror, big hunk of a guy, self-focused, everything's about him. Love it, Hannah. And so when I look at it, I think Matthew's like this girl wrapped up in a towel. And here's why. And we kind of got a glimpse of that in a video by a few things different people said. First, Matthew, there was a bit of greed there. He was in one of the best positions, and best positions we're talking getting paid out of everyone in that society. He had all the possessions. He was dressed up in nice clothes. He had a great house. The key that he gave to the soldier, that was the key to his house. He had all of the possessions that often people dream for. But I think in terms of him being wrapped in the towel, there was this shame. He was a tax collector, the worst of the worst in the Jewish eyes. The Jewish people hated him. You saw Peter there. He's like, do you even know who this guy is? They hated tax collectors. And Romans, they were just using him to do the dirty work. So he's in this middle ground and no one actually cares. He would have felt unworthy. He would have felt shame. And he even says it in the video, he says, me? Jesus is saying, come follow me. And he's saying, you're talking to me? You want me to join you. And I feel some of us are in that position where we think our past or where we're currently at, that we're unworthy, there's this shame, there's this guilt, and our eyes aren't focused on Jesus. And even you might feel the pressure of others. Peter said to him, do you have any idea who this guy is? This guy is a tax collector. Do you know him? And Jesus simply says, get used to the different. Get used to it. Because Jesus is calling out every single one of us. It doesn't matter what you are holding on to and the shame that might be there. He's calling us out just like Matthew did. And Matthew went on to be the guy that wrote one of the most powerful books in the gospel, looking at the life of Jesus, a tax collector turned disciple. So when you look at the pool illustration again, where does Matthew end up? He's all in. He's all in. He gives his key away, eventually takes off that nice robe, everything like that. He is all in to follow God, even though it was a life into the unknown. And then we get to the final story today, and it's called The Rich Man. That was just a random image when you Google rich man, so I'll just put that out there. It doesn't really look like a rich man today, but anyway. And so we get to the verse, Matthew 19, 16 to 22, and it says this. Just then a man came up to Jesus and asked, "Teacher, what good thing must I do to get to eternal life?" And he said, "Why do you ask me about what is good?" Jesus replied, "There is only one who is good. If you want to enter life, keep the commandments." So he says, "Well, which ones?" he inquires. And Jesus replied, "You should not murder, you should not commit adultery, you should not steal, you should not give false testimony, honor your father and mother, and love your neighbor as yourself. All these I have kept," the young man says. "What do I still lack?" And Jesus answered, "If you want to be perfect, go sell your possessions, give it to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me." When the young man heard this, he went away sad because he had great wealth. Where do you think this man would have been? And what do you think would have been holding him back? And it's clear in these passages, it was what he owned in the earthly world that was holding him back. He wasn't willing to give it up. Jesus says, "Follow me," and he simply turns and walks the other way. And for us, what do you think might be holding you back? When you look at that story, what do you think might be holding you back? And the final story, there's a fourth one, a little sneaky one at the end. It's you. This is the final story. And when you get and look at the pool scene again, I asked at the start, where do you think or who do you identify with in that picture? If Jesus is the pool and he's saying, "Come, follow me," where are you in this picture? But then in the next question, it goes to be, well, where do you want to be? That's the shift. The discipleship life is a journey. And so you might find yourself there reading the newspaper, or you're there tipping your toe in with your floaties on, or you're there, similar to Matthew, wrapped in your towel with shame or feeling unworthy. Maybe you're sitting on the edge, ready to dive in, or you're too busy in terms of the top left with the girls socializing or chatting away. You're missing it. Where or who do you identify, but where do you want to be? And then the final thing, well, how are you going to get there? How do you get to experience Jesus? And in another devotional that I was reading this week, it said, walking with Jesus changed these men's lives for the better. He revolutionized their life, and he asked them to do things that were beyond their abilities, beyond their faith, beyond their fears. And did they make mistakes? Were they human? Yes. But these men kept following Jesus, and they did all that Jesus asked him to do. And that's the point we're at today. Jesus is asking the same of us today. He's asking you to come, follow me. So it's what's your response going to be in that? If Jesus was standing in front of you saying, "Come, follow me," what would you do? So I'm going to invite Gabe up. And today I think it's just been a beautiful thing to see lives. And it doesn't matter where you're at in the journey of life, whether you're the 6 young kids or the girls over here, but they have taken a next step of their faith in that journey. And I want to give each of us that opportunity again today to make a public declaration of faith. I don't want to walk away another year and wait till next Covenant Sunday to give you an opportunity for you to declare where you're at today. For you to stand, I will invite you in a moment, if you feel prompted, to stand as a public declaration of your faith today. This might be the first time, or you might be on this journey for a while where you haven't actually accepted that response to come follow me from Jesus. And so maybe this is the time where you stand and say, for the first time or the second time, whatever it may look like, but Jesus, I want to follow you. I want you to be the center of my life. Or I know for a lot of us, you have either stood on this stage or another stage or been in another church where you have signed your own covenant. We have officers in this room, soldiers in this room, junior soldiers, adherents, disciples. We have people who have been baptized. You have made a covenant at some point in your life, but my invitation today is again to stand as a public declaration of your faith amongst your peers of this church to say, I'm all in. I'm in the pool and I'm all in. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you, if you feel prompted to stand as an individual, stand together, making it a promise today that I will follow Jesus. So I want to start with this. And sorry, girls, to make you the public display again. But girls, would you stand? They have made this public declaration today. And I wonder if you will stand with them. Jesus is asking you to follow me. Thanks, Nyasha. So I invite you now, if you feel prompted, to stand as a public display of your faith. Would you stand? Would you stand with me? With Mark, with Kim, with our church? We want to see our mates, our friends, our family saved. And it starts with you. Mark said at our Young Adults Weekend, Jesus will change the world, but it will be you through Jesus that does it. And it excites me. I was thinking about this moment, thinking, what if no one stands? What if no one stands? But here you are, making a public declaration of your faith, and it's powerful. It is powerful. And where we're at now is what's next. And I invite you over these coming days, as you leave, as you have a cuppa or whatever you do after this, invite somebody into where you're at. Whether this is your first time, your first encounter with Jesus, tell somebody about it. Whether that's one of the team or somebody you know, ask somebody to journey through that. Or maybe you've been on this journey for a long time, but I invite you to ask somebody else to journey with you as well. But what a church we have. Jesus is excited that you are all standing and want to follow him. So we're going to invite the bands and we're going to sing the song, Christ is Enough. And the lines that I have decided to follow Jesus, no turning back, no turning back. Powerful lyrics, powerful testimony of today, of our young people making a stand, of our youth making a stand, and now you making a decision in your own life. Jesus saying, come follow me. And so I'm glad to look out in the sea saying, I'm all in. I'm all in. Amen. I invite you to turn to somebody this coming week about where you're at and invite them on that journey with you. A life of discipleship is doing it together, just as Jesus did with Peter and Matthew. He wants to do that with you, but do it with the peers that are beside you. But may I leave you with this, and we're going to sing a song after. It's Hebrews 12, and it says this. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders us and the sin that so entangles us so easily. Let us run with perseverance the race that is marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author, the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy has set before him endured the cross, scorning in its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. So let us fix our eyes on Jesus. Amen. Let us sing our final song with the band. Thanks, Josh.